Well, guys, this was a very decent show for NWA Power for November 12th of 2019. I gotta say, this was a pretty dang good show. Pretty entertaining stuff. Matches could have done without, but the storytelling was very good. Matches, though, I was not very impressed with. Didn't have a lot of good action except for the main event. The rest of the card, I mean, you could take or leave. I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. But the storyline development for championships, titles being challenged for by Eli Drake, James Storm, Ken Anderson's also showing interest. Mr. Anderson is showing interest in the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, the 10 pounds of gold. And I like the little storyline development we got going on here for championship contention. I think this is going to lead to a triple threat match for the number one contender to face Nick Aldis at December 14th Into the Fire show on pay-per-view on Fight TV. And I think this is going to be an awesome, outstanding matchup. I think them having a triple threat match with these three guys is going to be very interesting to see on NWA Power. So this should be a very interesting storyline development they get going here. And I definitely hope that that's where they go with this. So, the first thing that happens on the show is we actually have Joe Galley and Jim Cornette welcome us to another exciting hour of NWA Power. They shoot us over to Dave Marquez, who's the interviewer of this segment, and he interviews the Rock and Roll Express. Boy, the Rock and Roll Express is getting around for two old guys, especially with them being in AEW in a angle with the Pride and Powerful and the Young Bucks. And now they're on NWA Power every single week as well. Very interesting stuff. I like how they are jumping them all over the place, and AEW kind of allowing them to be involved in other things than just AEW related. So I mean that's kind of interesting. So just going over some of the things that were stated. Morton says that he's excited for Kingston and Homicide to get a fair shot at the NWA Tag Team titles. Morton jumps in and calls the NWA the number one promotion, and that he's happy to be here. That's kind of weird that he's saying that when he's showing up on AEW Full Gear, making themselves look like they've found the fountain of youth, looking great in the middle of the ring on a AEW pay-per-view, but going ahead and saying that NWA is the number one promotion while they're getting dumped through a fucking stage through the floorboard. Find that interesting. A little bit of a contradiction to me. Why would they be on AEW if they think NWA is the number one promotion in wrestling right now? That's kind of stupid. Just making a little critique on that comment. Makes them look a little hypocritical. So then Eddie Kingston and Homicide come out. Kingston calls Rock and Roll Express the best tag team in the world, and that having their stamp of approval is all they need in their title matchup later tonight. So we go to the ring with Caleb Connolly facing Trevor Murdoch. Trevor Murdoch gets the win here. Nothing much to speak of in this matchup. It was very short, to the point match. He ends up hitting a top rope bulldog and gets the 1, 2, 3 from there. We then get a flashback from last week's episode when Ricky Starks defeats Aaron Stevens in a 2 out of 3 falls match, was downright awful, and Starks gets a clean sweep on that matchup. Back to the live show, Galley speaks with Aaron Stevens. He pretty much makes his announcement. He is fully done with professional wrestling. He's going to have a acting career that he's going to start on in Hollywood, California. And that's pretty much where he goes at this point. So, if that's the case, I'm okay with it. So is the audience in the studio. I fully feel that this is the right decision for them to do. Let Aaron Stevens / Damian Sandow go at this point. He does not need to be in wrestling. He is not needed whatsoever. He is not a great wrestler. He absolutely sucks. Just saying. Anyway, so Marty Bell and Thunder Rosa have a matchup facing Brooklyn Creed and Crystal Rose. This matchup was a fucking joke. Didn't last even but a minute and a half. And Thunder Rosa and Marty Bell win this match with Bell cuts off Rose, and this one is done quick. There's a double stomp to the back of Creed, and Bell cuts off Rose, and this one is pretty much over. So that was pretty much the end of that match. It was just a double stomp to the back. Big whoop. In the post-match interview, Marty Bell admits that she didn't know much about Thunder Rosa, but that she chose to stand alongside her because this is her future. Okay? I'm going to critique that statement. If you don't know a person, how can you go ahead and tell that she's your future? What is she to you? How is she going to help elevate your career? That comment made absolutely no sense to me. So I'm going to go on record and say I did not agree with that comment. You don't go ahead and say you don't know someone, but you feel that they're your future. That's kind of stupid. Then Rosa starts speaking in Spanish while Bell translates, and she says, "I had a vision, a fire that cannot be extinguished. Allison Kay has no idea what's coming to her." And that's the end of this segment, pretty much. Wow. Big whoop. Big whoop. I don't know where this is going with the women's championship. I'm assuming Marty Bell's getting her way into a world championship match in the women's division. Or we may see a triple threat match for the women's title. Don't quite know what they're trying to go with this, but feel a little bit of critique needs to be done here, and that's why I said what I had to say. So we get footage of Colt Cabana winning the national championship over James Storm on last week's episode. In an unseen clip, James Storm says that match was not fair. Somewhat of a distraction to James Storm, I would have to say. So he has a little bit of a legitimate gripe to say something like that, and he wants a rematch. Then he quickly changes his mind. I got bigger fish to fry. I'm not worried about this tadpoles. He goes on to say that Nick Aldis is his next victim, the guy that he wants to take the title, and he says, when I say it, when I find you, your ass is mine. So that's pretty much what he had to say there. So this is definitely putting him in the push for a world championship match with Nick Aldis. Do I think that is the best decision? There's three other guys, two other guys that I mentioned. Eli Drake and Mr. Anderson versus James Storm for a triple threat #1 contenders match would be a great idea, especially for a main event for the next episode of NWA Power. So I think that would be the best idea for them to go with here. So I hope they actually schedule a matchup like that. Then we got Dan Parker facing this wrestler by the name of The Question Mark. And this guy has been advertised in the cutscenes in between, like commercials and stuff. And now they officially made a wrestler out of this character called The Question Mark. And you'd think that Dan Parker would be the guy to win, but instead he's a jobber in this situation. And The Question Mark wins the match with a clubbing forearm. Well, actually, hold on. Parker charges, Mark gets a boot up, and then hits the middle rope missile drop kick, a huge haymaker, and Mark wins his debut match. The question mark wins his debut match. Again, like I said, guys, storyline telling was the key for this episode. Wrestling was not. And that's happened on other shows before. I've mentioned it on NXT shows. I've mentioned it on AEW even. For 1 or 2 episodes, I'd say they did better storyline telling than they did in-ring wrestling. This was definitely one of them. But I'm okay with that. As long as you have something to go with. Some kind of substance that gives me interest to want to continue to watch your show for a full hour or 2 hours, depending on how long your show is. I would like to have something that intrigues me to keep me staying around and want to watch it all the way from beginning to end. And they did that here. They also throw out a little bit of Colt Cabana having a kind of, throwing out there that there's a possibility that Randy Starks is a guy that could be next challenging for the NWA National Championship. So another deal on that I actually enjoyed seeing there. Now, we were supposed to get some kind of thing, statement made by Camille, but we never got that through the show. It was as if they completely forgot about it or totally fucked around with its audience. Anyway, going back to what we got written here on Wrestling Incorporated, we have Gallus, Galley says that he still has questions about Camille and why she has not yet spoken with them. Eli Drake comes out. Why isn't Camille talking? Ask Drake. Ask Drake. I don't give a good damn. Drake teases that Aldis may be keeping Camille from speaking so she won't reveal secrets, which is kind of hinted in the end of this show, by the way, which I'll get into. Drake says that the only name Camille's mind is Eli Drake. The wild cards come out, and Latimer tells Drake to mind his own business. I don't know what that's entailing, but that made a little bit more intriguing, bringing more question to what the hell Eli Drake just said earlier before Latimer came out. So, an intense confrontation takes place, but Mr. Anderson stands by Drake. Wildcards leave and Anderson then cuts a promo. I heard you're looking for a guy with a big mouth. He whispers his name to the delight of the crowd. Anderson. I thought that was fucking great. I like Anderson. I like Mr. Anderson. I've always liked him. I liked him even when he was in WWE. I think he got really screwed over for the World Championship against Batista. I think it would have been great to see Anderson face Undertaker at WrestleMania in a one-on-one match over a World Championship. I thought that would have been great for his career. Have him take a loss to The Undertaker while he still had that undefeated streak. That would have really put him on the wrestling map, I think, as that character. But whatever the case is what it is. At this point, this really puts Anderson, Eli Drake, and James Storm right under Nick Aldis's neck. Or back, whatever way you want to put it. They're right behind him. And I think they all three of them want a shot. So I think they should give them that opportunity. Then we get a message from NWA owner Billy Corgan, which, by the way, I am very happy with what he's provided here. With this very limited production, a limited roster as well. I mean, he is doing a very decent job with what he's got. And I hope he continues to succeed and move forward and get bigger. One of the things that I think really needs to happen to get I'm sorry guys, my tongue is tied. What NWA needs to get back on, well, not get back on track, but get in a bigger what they need is to get popular is they need to be in front of a bigger audience. They need to be in arenas, small arenas, something of that kind of nature that contains about 1,000 to 2,000 people. And they can provide even better, provide the same exact quality that they're providing now with a little bit of a bigger roster too. Another thing that Billy Corgan really should look into, I think, just my opinion, I think they should look for a partnership with a promotion that's a little bit bigger than them. So they could share talent with them as well as be able to maybe be highlighted on their program. AEW would be a good opportunity for them to possibly go with. I think that might work, but I don't think AEW needs to partner with anybody. So I don't think the AEW would see any benefit out of it. But I think NWA would be great for both companies. But to be quite frank with you, like I already said, AEW doesn't need anybody to link up with them. So that's not in their benefit, but it would be in another company's benefit. There was mention about the New Japan Wrestling promotion actually partnering with AEW and sharing talent on their rosters, but unfortunately that was snubbed by Nick and Matt Jackson from the Young Bucks. So we're not going to be seeing that at all. So we'll go ahead and we have a small clip from last week about Tim Storm and Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis trying to convince Tim Storm not to retire or walk away from the wrestling business, and so on and so forth. So that was pretty much that. Nothing major or big happened here. We then get a small segment from Nick Aldis talking to Joe about the match coming up with the NWA World Tag Team titles. He goes on to say that there's a reason that the NWA is where it's at, and you're looking at it. Aldis then reveals he's going to be at ringside during the upcoming title match to ensure there's no shenanigans that occur during the match, which there wasn't. Pretty much the major issue that happened here was Eddie Kingston's knee was really fucked up. And I believe that had a lot to do with his matchup with MLW. Or no, wait, he didn't perform in MLW. That was Major League Wrestling. He wasn't actually in that promotion. He was in PCW Ultra, which is a promotion he actually performed in and did a hardcore wrestling matchup with another tag team. And they went all out crazy, and I think he sustained an injury from that match, and it kind of affected him in this matchup. You could see him limping around throughout most of the matchup. Homicide had to do a lot of legwork. At that point, once Kingston got involved in this matchup and he tried to do a suplex, his knee gave out on him, and that was it, and it went straight down from there. They did a pop-up powerbomb, dragon suplex, and then Kingston wouldn't be able to kick out of that, and they won the match. So that was pretty much it in that matchup. The rest of the entire match, I'm not going to go on through the entire exact play-by-play that occurred during the matchup, but it was solid action. It was good for a main event for what it was worth, and the Wild Cards retained their tag team titles. But after the match was over, we see Camille come out and start speaking with Nick Aldis, but the sound is off. You can't hear them talking. None of the other things that were going on, like the commotion and the disagreements that were occurring during this ending of the show, so you didn't really get to hear anything that was going on. And it leaves a little bit of a cliffhanger for you to want to tune in for next week to find out what that was. Somewhat, if you really give a shit, which I do. I think that this show is a solid, decent show that gives you a good hour of good old school professional wrestling. One other thing I want to note on this is that when Camille walks out, she's pointing at the Wild Cards threateningly. And James Storm comes out to confront all this, as well as the Dawsons, and things are looking like they're about to get out of hand before they go off the show. So that was pretty much the whole ending to that entire segment for the end of the show. I gotta say that there was a little bit confusion to me on what was going on with the Dawsons being out there. I don't understand where they come in. I mean, outside of the fact that they were trying to get a world champion or world tag title opportunity, and they failed because they lost to Kingston and Homicide last week. But at the end of the day, I mean, I didn't quite understand the Dawsons being out there, but everybody else kind of getting involved. Eli Drake was there too. I mean, you saw a lot of commotion going on. You couldn't really hear anything because they just started playing the Into the Fire theme song for the show, and that was pretty much it. So I'm pretty certain they're going to touch up on a lot of the things that were said or what was going on in this current week's show into next week, so we can get some understanding what the hell was happening here. But overall, decent show, not bad. They threw out a lot of ideas of what they're going ahead and having their pay-per-view card like for championship belts on their program. So I'm looking into it. I'm very interested in where they go with this. So at this point, there's really much more I can say at this point about this show outside it was pretty decent. Leave your comments and opinions down below. Let me know what you guys thought of it. And hit the like button if you liked the video. And hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed to the channel. And I thank you very much for watching. Have a great night, guys. Bye.